Hi, it's Ken. Welcome to this week's Frequently Asked Spiritual Question video. This is part 2 with Edward Tyler. We started this last week, and in this email, he writes, this is a follow-up to his question last week in response to my question of him and so on that I shared with you last week. Edward says, glad to hear it inspired something. It was interesting to hear about your practice, and some of what you said has inspired my own, dropping deeper through each day. As a follow-up question, I was wondering what your personal practice of embodiment is. It's a term I hear more often now, but I feel I may have first really heard it from you. I really enjoy movement work and things of that nature to feel more embodied, as well as somatic meditation or something more intuitive, such as allowing the feelings of resonance in my body to take me where they take me. I'm quite curious to hear about your work and how you specifically do this. I'm glad to hear you remember me. It feels great to be in touch. Thanks for taking the time. Edward, thanks for the subsequent question about embodiment. There are a couple things I want to link to in the description here, one of which is a video that used to sit on my homepage of my website that is a description and explanation and experience of embodiment. And the second thing I want to link to is the resonance experiment. If you haven't yet participated in the experiment, I'd encourage you to sign up to register for that. It's a free encounter, a free experience. There's a series of transmissions and teachings associated with it, including a focus session on embodiment, which I think will deepen this, my explanation and my teaching around that in a much more complete way. So I'll link to those in the description. In terms of my personal practice of embodiment, it's exactly what I teach. I literally do the exact practice of embodiment that I teach. And what's interesting is that I know a lot of people utilize movement as a process or a method for getting into a deeper state of embodiment. I think that's a beautiful process. Others will do chanting, again, a very beautiful process. For me, it doesn't require movement, although certainly movement can be wonderful. I shared in the last video, I walk every day. But the reason for my walking is different. The reason I walk is actually to support my body being in movement, not the embodiment of my soul. And moving my body has had a special meaning for me around setting aside quite a bit of weight, actually more than 100 pounds between 2016 and 2018 with the help of my good friend Ray Williams, who's known as the Mind Mechanic. I'll link to him as well in the description. So, okay, embodiment. So I described my meditation practice, that's every day. My embodiment practice, I would say, is riding along with that meditation experience all the time. And I consciously engage in embodiment for a couple of different reasons. First of all, if there's something going on that I'm experiencing as dissonance, I'm upset, my buttons got pushed, whatever it is. And this happens to me on a regular basis. I think it happens to all of us. We're human beings, after all. I associate that with something very specific that relates to what I teach around embodiment. I really believe this is true, and I see this within my own life in a very deep way. So when my buttons are getting pushed, I feel like it's some aspect of my separate self that's coming up for attention. And my experience of that is that my separate self is holding some part of my whole self. But it's an incredible gift that's being triggered, that's showing up in this way. And it's gift wrapped in this noise, in my agitation and my upset and my irritation and my sadness, whatever it is. And only through the embodiment process am I able to transmute the wrapping paper around that gift, if you will, and integrate that gift in so that I can begin to express that aspect of my whole self and take advantage of the resources that come with that. So embodiment to address dissonance is a big thing for me. And I can tell excuse me, I can tell that there's something going on from a disembodiment standpoint from a couple of different perspectives. One of which is, how am I feeling in my body? And I don't mean necessarily, I mean, it is a physical sensation, but it's an energetic physical dynamic for me. So if I start feeling anxious, that's a sign of disembodiment. If I start feeling kind of in a sustained way sad, if I get angry, that's a sure sign that I'm beginning to disembody or have already begun to disembody. There's an indescribable feeling that is the precursor, that is the actual initial experience of embodiment. And if I'm aware of that, then I will immediately attend to that with embodiment practice. So I'll allow whatever is coming up in me emotionally or physically. It could be physical discomfort. I'll allow myself to feel that as I'm witnessing myself. That is to say, witnessing is one way I describe what happens, what takes place, how the divine expresses through me when I'm in transmission or facilitating a session with a group. If you've done, or if you're going to do the resonance experiment, you'll have a series of transmissions that you'll experience with me, and then have a deeper experience of what I'm talking about. So I'm actually facilitating a transmission supporting the embodiment of my soul for myself as I'm feeling that dissonance, just to be more complete with that. And then the other aspect of it, my embodiment work, is very much about supporting the deepening of the resonance, which I said last week is that experience, that physical, visceral feeling of my connection with the divine, which for me is an absolutely essential component of my life. In fact, that is the guiding compass for how I interact with my life and the types of things I engage in and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I can't even think of a part of my life where that feedback that I'm receiving, again, I feel it right now, hands and feet buzzing, lots of stuff going on in my body. There's other awareness going on. I'm seeing things intuitively. All of these things for me are experiences of that innate connection that exists within all of us with the divine. And so a lot of my embodiment work is about supporting the deepening of that integration experience. Last time I referenced meditating to support integration. That can be facilitated and supported through embodiment practice. In the most simple way, just so this is a complete answer, embodiment for me is about supporting the soul in descending down through not just the center line of the body, not just down the meridians, but through the entirety of the physical vessel, coming home all the way back in the hips. And there's much more to say about that. The linked resources in the description will be a wonderful resource for you to explore if you're interested in diving in deeper. Let me know what comes up for you as you're listening and as I'm sharing my answer to the second part of Edward's question in the comments below. I'll join you there. I'll interact with you there. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask of me for consideration for this video series, there's a link to do so in the description. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I also invite you to join our community by heading over to kenwstone.com. Look forward to being back with you again very soon. Peace.